Hey everyone, Diggy Saffron here. I'll make this introduction real quick so I can get right into the analysis. Granted that One Piece is just a few years away from ending, I decided to roll the dice on a YouTube channel to talk about one of my all-time favorite anime and manga series. Especially since I've followed it in some form or fashion since I was at least 13, maybe even earlier. This first video though, just like many other first attempts, might be rough, but I want to get the ball rolling before the end of Egghead. Maybe it works out and maybe it doesn't, but I'm giving it a shot. So in the future, I'm hoping to roll out more types of videos, as well as things like theories, character awards, Q&As, or even streams potentially. To get things moving with this first video, I have a prediction for chapter 1110 and an analysis to explain what I think could be happening. I've thought about an underrated character that I believe is soon to become an X-Factor in the final stages of the Egghead arc. With chapter 1110 just around the corner, it's fair to say that Egghead is nearing its conclusion. But after the reveal of this mysterious character, I'm calling it a character, there's also an underlying and burning question. One that I think that we all want to be answered, and one that I think might get lost in the shuffle of the other potential lore drops that could be coming in the near future. And with that, I also want to clarify that the videos I do will keep up with the manga scans. So if you're an anime fan, or you wait until the official releases, then there might be some spoilers coming up now and in the future. So here's the prediction for the upcoming chapter. The Iron Giant appears in full motion and approaches Luffy in the Gorosei-filled battlefield. That'll be at the end of the chapter once it's fully established the five elders are there and that they too have their own unique demonic devil fruit abilities, similar to what we've seen from J. Garcia's Saturn recently, and it'll pull back the curtain on the silhouettes we saw when Sabo was investigating Pangaea Castle. For the manga, it's no secret by now with the bombshell panel at the end of chapter 1109, but the remaining four Gorosei, Topman Warkery, Ethan Baron Venus Juro, Marcus Mars, and Shepard Jupiter have been summoned onto Egghead in an Infinity Wars fashion. But now there's a lopsided battle, considering it's essentially a 5v1 of giant characters. There needs to be some way to level the playing field, and there needs to be more and larger Straw Hat allies coming to the epicenter, especially since Luffy and Saturn are already huge, and the remaining elders are projected to be just as big. It might not completely even the odds, but the Iron Giant is a step in the right direction, and I believe the robot is taking his own steps to enter the scene. The Giant isn't to be scoffed at strength-wise. We've seen how far the technology has come based on the Egghead arc alone. I mean, there's the Mark III Pacifistas and their bubble shields, the Juvenile Seraphim, of course, but the uptick in technological advancements has been hinted at much earlier with Frankie. And that wasn't more on display than when it was during the Sasaki fight, who is a Yonko executive, with Frankie and the General Frankie, or the Shogun, being more than the Triceratops could handle. Yes, the Iron Giant is already damaged, a spear can be seen jutting out of his side, and he's obviously faced the elements over the centuries with all the moss and rust. As far as we know, the robot hasn't seen any daylight since his raid on the Red Line. But maybe that's something that could theoretically be addressed with Bonnie's powers, to get it back into its prime, but maybe that's putting the cart before the horse at this point. A good comparison, actually, for the robot's strength might already be on the island too, with Dory and Broggy running amok. But that might be a video for another day. Oda has teased the Iron Giant in fits and starts across Egghead, when it was first discovered by Luffy, Bonnie, Chopper, and Jinbei, in the early portions of the arc. At that point, chapter 1065's final panel, those four stumbled upon the Giant, where they found the Stella, unceremoniously stuck to the back, and where we learned a bit of information about the Void Century relic. Along the way through the Egghead arc, we've picked up on some crucial nuggets of info on the robot. Here's what we know. We know it's related to the Ancient Kingdom, the Void Century, and the true history of the One Piece world. Vegapunk essentially spelled that out directly. Its potential is still unrealized, but we in the audience know that it seems to resonate with the Nika fruit. Going into Gear 5th, specifically, and when the drums of liberation start playing, it kind of acts as fuel for the Iron Giant. At least 2 times in Egghead now, Oda has panned over to the robot as he awakens out of his slumber. But the common element here is that both times Luffy has gone Gear 5th. The first time might have been simply to show us that there was indeed a connection between the Iron Giant, the legendary Devil Fruit, the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom, Joy Boy, and Sun God Nika. But the second time might show a link between the length for which Luffy is in Gear 5th and how much the Iron Giant is able to do. The robot seems to resonate with the beat of the drums of liberation, since sound effects can be seen in the panels with the waking robot in Chapter 1092. And for the second time, only as far back as Chapter 1106, the robot kick-started again to the tune of Gear 5th, but there were some creaking sound effects this time around, suggesting to me that there were some slight movements as it tried to shake off the rust and get back into action. And since that time, Luffy has remained in Gear 5th. So I would imagine that the robot has started moving toward either Luffy, his fuel source, or his original mission from a couple of centuries ago. And that's the burning question I hinted at earlier. This might end up being just as important as anything else regarding the Iron Giant. But we need answers as to why it attacked Marriagewa 200 years ago, and we need to know how the Nika fruit factored into that. That's the only known power source we have right now. In my opinion, that singular idea is a foot in the door for the remaining mysteries of the Void Century and the Ancient Kingdom. The details on the giant robot have obviously been sparse up to this point, but we have a brief half-panel flashback from when it was looming over the Holy Land in Chapter 1067. And unfortunately, that's not much to go off of. But according to the Stella, its goal was never understood. They say that there was no damage only because it ran out of energy. We don't know its mission, and we don't fully understand how it operates. So who's to say the robot doesn't get resurrected and start charging back for the Red Line? I'm half kidding, of course, because ultimately that wouldn't make sense narratively and would be anticlimactic if he turns tail and goes elsewhere. Maybe his directive all along was to go after the Celestial Dragons specifically. And there happens to be 5 of them right there on the island. But you know who might have a better guess? One of the giants. Some giants would have been alive during the attack on Marriagewa 200 years ago. Someone like Gerald, for example, was well over 300 years old during Big Mom's backstory. He might still be alive and have some historical perspective on the attack when the Straw Hats eventually go to Elbaf. Then there's Saul, who I think would have researched the books he helped save from the Uehara incident. So again, maybe some more insight will come from them once the Straw Hats safely make it to Elbaf. Anyway, that's a wrap on this preliminary prediction video. I hope to be back after Chapter 1110's release, possibly with a review or highlights of some of my favorite panels. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.